Alright, so today we're going to talk about transitions, and transition sounds like a really fancy word, but in grammar and writing, transitions, I guess you could learn by roots, right? Trans means change or move, right? Change or moving, and shun, right? The shun part means noun, and s means plural, obviously. But transitions are, when you're connecting sentences or when you're going from one sentence to another sentence, you could use words or phrases to connect them or move on to another topic, right? Or relate to that topic before. And I think it's best to learn with examples, right? Example words. So you have words like consequently. And consequently is an adverbial conjunction or independent marker word. And if you don't know what that jargon is, and jargon, right? Jargon means technical terms or esoteric terms, as they say on the SATs and ACTs, right? It's adverbial conjunctions and independent marker words. If you don't know, watch my other videos on them, on sentence structures. I think it will really help. But you have words like consequently, nevertheless, moreover, and these are all, adverbial conjunctions, right? As opposed to fanboys, right? You could also use fanboys as conjunctions, right? Fanboys, right? And fanboys is an acronym for basically words you use to combine two sentences, right? And they're known as, in technical jargon again, jargon as coordinate conjunctions, right? And these acronyms basically stand for and, nor, but, or, yet, so, right? And you could combine sentences this way. Can you start a sentence with but? Yes, you can, right? Can you put a comma after the word but? Let's say you start a sentence. Yes, as long as you insert a phrase right afterwards, but otherwise you shouldn't. And I know I'm getting technical over there, but you'll probably run into those things when you're doing the improving sentences and identifying error questions. In any case, some other transitions. So as for now, I gave you only word transitions, but you could also have transitional phrases, right? And phrases, remember, are different from clauses in that they're just fragments of stuff, right? So you could use transitional phrases like, let's say, as a rule, right? Those are three words, right? You could use that as a phrase or phrasal transition, or you could have in contrast, right? Or for instance, right? All these words, right? They could be adverbial phrases, right? But they are transitions. They're, connecting your previous sentence or previous paragraph to another idea. All right, so let's take a look at some questions. Increased regulation in this market will certainly lower greenhouse emissions, which some economists are warning that it may also increase prices. So we have more regulation. It's going to reduce emissions, which is a good thing, but it's going to raise prices. And if you notice, the first thing over here in answer choice A, right, it starts with the word which, right? And there is no contrast in this one at all. Even though it sounds like you need a contrast, there is no contrast, right? Some economists are warning. And why would you put are warning when you could simply put economists warn? Right? So answer A is just really bad. What about B? However, some economists have warned. So, okay, there's a contrast. This is a contrasting transition, except this is a run-on sentence. Because if you take out the adverbial phrase, however, it becomes independent clause, comma, independent clause, which is a run-on or a comma splice. And if you don't know what that means, check out my other lectures on the sentence structures, and hopefully you could catch on with that jargon. Right? Even some of this stuff that I put in here, I see, comma, I see. It basically means independent clause, comma, independent clause, which is wrong. It's a comma splice. What about C? Although some economists warning that it may also increase prices. So, economists warning, this is a modifier phrase, right? I don't know how this would work. So it'd just be a really bad answer choice. What about D? But some economists warn. So, okay, there's a contrast, and this is a coordinate conjunction, which means you could put another sentence after it. Economists, and it's in the present tense, they warn, means they do this now, right? And E is wrong because there is no transition, or there is a transition, and, except this is what? It's positive. You're simply adding. There's no contrast. So the best answer is choice D. So this one says, while for some people work is pure misery, to be suffered only because it produces income, but for others, a daily source of joy. And what you'll notice right away is that this is not a sentence. A is not a sentence. Why? Because this starts with a dependent marker word. While means it's a dependent clause. Afterwards, I know they give you the transition but after this, so let's take it out, right? This is the meat of the sentence. For others, a daily source of joy. It's a fragment, so it can't be a, right? Another thing that's wrong is while means, the contrasting side. So you can't have but and but in the sentence. It just logically would not make sense. The transition does not fit. You can't put this but transition. So B also does not work. So we have C, D, E. So that's good. How about we get rid of E because this is also a fragment. How can we check? Look what it says, right? Others, a daily source of joy, right? There's no verb. Right? So it has to be C or D. So let's look at C or D. Right? Remember, SAT always gives you two choices that you have to really, think through. Okay? So while for some people, work is misery, for others, it is a daily source of joy. It, meaning what? Work is a source of joy. What about D? While some people, work is pure misery, and for others. Do you need this transition and? No, you don't. So the best answer is C, because it says, while for some people it's this, for other people it's that. It's most parallel, it fits well without, putting the superfluous, transition word and, right? So the best answer is C. When streaming TV shows, webcasts, and other elements of popular culture were once deemed unworthy of academic study, they are now the subject of many scholarly research and articles. Okay, so the first thing that's wrong right away, you could tell, is this word when, right? They have this dependent marker word when. So when they were popular, and then it continues on, they are now, right? Now, how does that make any sense? When they were popular, it means they're talking about a time period. I know they have this phrase over here, once they were once popular, but how does that fit in with the word when, right? So it can't be A. What about B? Streaming TV shows, webcasts, and other elements of pop culture had once been deemed unworthy, right? They are now subject of many scholarly research. So if you do the basic subject and verb, find the subject and verb, you realize that B is a comma splice, right? There's two subject and verbs, right? Because why? You have all these things had once been unworthy, and then they put a comma, they are now researched, right? That's what they're saying. So it can't be B. Let's look at C. And C looks kind of promising because it has the word although, right? And you need a contrast because look, they have now. Talk about now and then in the past. So let's look at C. Says, although streaming TV shows, webcasts, and other elements of popular culture were once deemed unworthy. Yeah, so in the past, reality TV shows, they're not real things, but they are now, right? So that makes sense over here. C. So let's leave C for a second. Let's check D. Despite streaming TV shows, webcasts, and other elements of popular culture were once deemed unworthy. So forget all these things over here, right? Despite streaming. So this ing is actually playing a big role. Despite streaming. Who is doing the streaming, right? We don't know. Maybe it's they, right? So they are streaming themselves. Well, I guess it could kind of make sense, but this part over here, elements of popular culture were once, it seems like they're trying to make another sentence over here, right? But this ing is talking about they, or they're trying to make this a separate sentence in itself, right? It really doesn't fit. What about E? Being that, right? TV shows, webcasts, and other elements of popular culture were once, once deemed unworthy of academic study. They. Okay, same thing. Being. And then after that, you could have whatever you want. Being is talking about they, right? Really doesn't make sense at all. The best one, and also it doesn't have a contrast. There's no contrast in E, so it wouldn't work. So I guess you could really think about, C and D, right? C and D, except although streaming TV shows, meaning this is actually modifying D stuff, right? Streaming TV shows, webcasts, and other elements. Other elements of popular culture, it's talking about these things, right? That are streaming on the internet, right? It's modifying these things, as opposed to D over here. Despite streaming. This sounds like somebody is doing something, right? It's not talking about streaming TV shows, right? It's not modifying these things, right? So that's the difference. So the best answer has to be C.